splash damage. Sometimes that splash damage can do huge amounts of damage well after the vultures have been killed off. That was pretty lucky to only kill one probe. Pretty lucky for Violet, that is, not for Lita. This is, once again, supposedly unlucky week 13, which is maybe being a little bit unlucky for KT Rolster anyways. This match is still rather even, so it's hard to say what the final outcome is going to be. But just because they have a plus 28 game difference record, they are at least familiar with sweeping teams. That is their typical modus operandi, and they have not been able to accomplish that in this match so far. Lita going in and getting a third base over in that 6 o'clock position, 7 o'clock, right next to his main base. I'm not sure if I really like that, because that is an easy base to attack. There's a lot of ramps that move from the natural expansion and the third base of the Protoss player that just kind of lead directly into that area right outside of that base, and there is a very thin wall there. Obviously those the Protoss units can't siege over the wall. He can if he ends up getting some high Templar. He could do storms over the wall, but it's very easy for Terrans to attack, because Terrans can just siege over the wall, because the wall is so narrow and very close to, it's a pretty small base, so all of those, so that wall is close to the minerals. It looks like Violet now on his 3 bases is ready to start teching up towards Arbiters. Lita trying to do a little bit more harassment with some vultures, but running into... Jeez, I'm getting calls from everybody right now. I'm going to put my phone on silent once I get a chance to. But, sorry, Lita is running into Dragoons. His vultures are running into Dragoons at every step of the way. It looks like a group of about 6 Dragoons are there and trying to do... thinking about at least attacking that new base over in the 7 o'clock position for Lita. Sorry, I'm going to put my phone on silent now. There we go. So hopefully no more annoying interruptions like that. A Dragoon and a Reaver are being dropped into that new base, and a little bit of damage being done. A couple of SCVs killed, 3 SCVs killed altogether so far. But Lita doing a good job of running his SCVs, being able to prevent most of the damage. He tried to come in with that Wraith to snipe off that shuttle with the Reaver in it, but he has been unsuccessful in that. It looks like, ooh, wow, we've got carriers coming out, a lot of pylons, and I think a second Stargate, as well as that fleet beacon that, the fleet beacon. So I was completely wrong, no Arbiters, not paying attention to the buildings very closely, I guess, but carriers coming out for Violet, so this is a very interesting play, and I'm particularly interested to see how this will work so late in the game, when the game is so even. Both players on 3 bases at the moment. It looks like Violet is trying to set up his 4th down in the southeast position. I'm not sure if that is up and running yet or not. But the reason that I'm particularly interested in it is because another Protoss player, Harangi, has gone for 2 base carriers on this map earlier on in the season, and one time he was successful and one time he was not successful, but really both of those pretty much being determined before the carriers ever came into play. So at this point, where it's much later in the game and both players somewhat even in terms of economy and military, I'm interested to see how these carriers play out. It looks like Lita has been anticipating Arbiters as well, and is building. He's got a science facility, and I think that the science vessel is being built, as well as EMP being researched. EMP is still going to be pretty good against carriers, because carriers have a lot of shields, so getting a nice EMP on a clump of carriers is still going to be able to do a good amount of damage, but he's going to need a lot of Goliaths. He needs to scout this out very quickly if he wants to have any chances of defending this. Right now, all of his army is in ground units, and ground versus ground, in particular attacking units. Lita coming in and critically sniping off that Nexus in the southeast position, so keeping Violet on 3 bases, although he is also being attacked at his natural expansion. So Lita being able to do a little bit of economic damage, which is going to be very helpful for him as these carriers are starting to be built. It looks like Violet is also trying to take the base at the 1 o'clock position, just outside, just under the low ground, outside of his main base. The first 2 carriers are out, but no interceptors built quite yet. It looks like, yeah, air upgrades are being researched at the Cybernetics core as well, and it looks like Violet might also be trying to take that base in the northwest position, which is typically Lita's 4th base, you might generally assume. But I don't know if Lita has spotted this base being built up in the northwest. I don't know if he's, and I'm pretty sure actually that he has not scouted out these carriers. He needs to get a comm stat. Ooh, maybe he has. He's got a couple of Goliaths in the mix, and a number of missile turrets going down around his natural expansion. He does have an armory up, obviously, because he's been building those, building a couple of Goliaths. But I don't know if he's fully transitioning to Goliaths just yet or not. Maybe he is. Now he has 4 Goliaths out in the field, so I'm thinking that he is starting to transition. Yeah, and he is upgrading the Charon boosters. So Lita has finally scouted out these carriers, but I don't know if it's going to be in time. He is still trapped on 3 bases. Violet is very aggressively trying to expand. I don't know if he's re-expanded down in that southeast position, but he is taking the northwest position and the 1 o'clock position, so he is going to be up at least 2 bases. If both of those stand. Lita has this group of vultures that he's using mainly just to pick off all of these zealots at the moment, which is not going to be particularly helpful. Those zealots are not going to be a core part of the carrier army. The dragoons will, and that is a lot of carriers. It looks like already 6 carriers out for Violet, so he is going to be able to deal out huge amounts of damage. He has Lita has 2 armories. I'm sure he is upgrading as fast as he possibly can, but he needs a lot more Goliaths on the field. He needs at least 3 Goliaths, or excuse me, 3 control groups of Goliaths to be dealing with all of these carriers that are out. Yeah, that is just going to be a ridiculous amount of carriers, and I don't even know, maybe I was wrong and he hasn't spotted it. Maybe those couple of Goliaths were there to protect against arbiters. I think Violet might have done a little bit of a tricky thing right there. As those vultures were coming in to harass, he had started building a Templar archives, which is indicative of arbiters, so he might be leading Lita to believe that arbiters are on the way, and those carriers have been revealed. A nice EMP on that clump of carriers, so like I was saying, those shields have been eliminated, but only like a handful of Goliaths out there to contest them, and I don't think it's going to be enough. He has got a couple more Goliaths on the way, a simultaneous counterattack going in with a bunch of dragoons. There's still a ton of siege tanks on the map around the natural expansion for Lita, but only 4 Goliaths out in the field and a couple of science vessels. That's the only things that he has that can attack air at the moment, besides his missile turrets, which there are none of at this brand new base at the 9 o'clock position. So Lita in a lot of trouble right now. He's going to lose this base at the 9 o'clock position very quickly. Violet's going to be able to protect that northwest base as well. Lita is having to retreat all of his units down to his 7 o'clock base because honestly he has nothing around to counteract this all these carriers. He has no anti-air. Still a large group of tanks. Maybe he can go in for a counterattack and do some damage over at the southeast position. It looks like that's what he's trying to do right now, but all of these vultures and siege tanks are being rendered impotent against Violet's gigantic carrier army, and now it looks like Violet has practically a whole control group of carriers. Lita coming in, trying to do a little bit of a counterattack in the southeast, but getting himself stuck on this ramp. Just a couple of forces there, able to delay those siege tanks long enough for the carriers to get there, and that many carriers, I mean, yeah, that's What are you gonna do about that? I don't know. Unless you have a huge group of Goliaths already, you're not gonna be able to do too much against it. Maybe if he had a bunch of Wraith like he has, like he built against Firebat Hero and against Really, I think it was, were the 2 games where he did he made mass Wraiths. Maybe that would have had a chance too. But now Violet just being able to walk in with those carriers, moving in with that short wall that I was talking about, and being able to take out the base of the 1 o'clock position. Lita coming in with some Goliaths might be able to take out the base of the northwest position, but Violet probably doesn't care at all because he has basically an unstoppable army that is moving all around Lita's bases. He has 5 bases even without that. He has 4 along the east side of the map and then 1 at the 1 o'clock position. It looks like Lita has been transitioning into nukes. He has a covert ops down.